Well, welcome back. This is Arise News. You're watching the morning show with me, Biola, Alabi. Have you been working for several years now with no tangible assets to show for it? My first guest, Tomie Balogun, was in the same place 4 years ago till she took the bull by the horn and turned her life around in 2013. Tomie co-founded an investment club with 4 friends, which grew her wealth exponentially through investments in fixed income, stocks, and 4 startups. With incredible results in little to no time, Tomie is now on a mission to help young working professionals take advantage of the power of many in creating their own wealth through her Green Club and new book. Let's take a quick look at my interview with her earlier in the week. Tomie, thank you and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. So happy to be here.
It's great to be here, and we have your book, Investment Clubs, which I can't wait to dig into even more, although I have some questions about some of the things in there.
All right.
So you started an investment club 4 years ago.
Yes, I did.
What prompted you to start the club?
So it was right about the time I got enrolled in my MBA program.
Okay.
Prior to that, I had worked for 4+ years in a management consulting company. And then I got admission to go do an MBA, and then it dawned on me that I had no significant savings. So I was going to go for a 2-year full-time MBA where I would not be working and have no income, and yet I had no savings to fall back on. So it was a wake-up call.
Were you surprised that you had no savings after working in a professional, I'm guessing, nice job for 4 years?
Yeah, I don't think I was surprised. I think the reality just dawned on me that I had not been saving or doing anything significant with my money. I'd just been spending. You know, income was coming in on a monthly basis, and it was fine as long as it was coming in. And then when it was about to stop, I knew that things had to change. So right after my MBA, I went through 2-year full-time MBA. Somehow I got through, right?
With no money?
Well, let's just say I was subsidized.
Okay.
Right, and then in between, I got to intern at the World Bank, so that gave me some income as well. So right after, I had 4 classmates, and we decided that we're going to take advantage of the power of many, come together and start investing together. So that's what.
So we felt like it was important to bring you on today because it is June, it's halfway through the year. People start the year with so many goals. I mean, we talked about fitness goals already, and they're always financial goals. Everyone says, I'm gonna save more, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. What are the ways that you found coming together with your friends helped you actually action your plan?
So I think, first of all, we had to make investment a bill. So we find that a lot of people, I mean, you pay your electricity bills, your grocery bills, transportation bills on a monthly basis, right? You budget for it if you do, but even if you don't, you always have an idea of how much you spend. But what really helped us, we had to, first job, first salary, we had to set out an amount of money that we would make a bill for investing. So that way it became a routine. It became something that was part of my monthly budget. So on a monthly basis, the amount of money was going into investing. So what I always say, a lot of times we wait for the windfalls, the bonus, before we think about investing. But if you make it a habit, something that you naturally do, with something you set aside, I think people focus on the amount of money, but you just need to start with something. If you get the windfall or the bonus, fine, that also helps. But if you start with anything as low as 5, 10,000, 50, 100, depends on how much you can afford, make investment a bill, it's easier to, you know, meet your goals. So for those, it's not too late to start. Set aside a budget and decide an amount of money you set aside to invest in something. And there are various options. Yeah.
So let's go back to the philosophy behind an investment club. Most people, when they hear investment clubs, they think of Ajo or Esusu.
Yes.
How is this different from that?
So I always say that it's a step higher than the Ajo is, because I've done that myself.
Okay.
Because what happens with the Ajo...
What are the benefits of the Ajo? Sorry, I just want to I want people to understand, because some people are like, well, do I do it? Do I not do it? What are the benefits of an Ajo?
It helps you save. It helps you save. I mean, when you're held accountable, when you're working with other people, and you're taking advantage of the many as well. And it's something that has always been part of our traditional society, traditional savings schemes, women in the marketplace, doing the Ajo to pay school fees, to pay rent, to offset major expenses that might come up, especially if you're not a very, someone who saves and can hold yourself accountable yourself. Ajo is good, but you see, the reality is we live in Nigeria, and there's so many factors that come to play when you talk about money. So for instance, I always give this example. If you're doing an Ajo or a savings scheme with 10 other people, and it's like January to October, right? And let's say in January, when the first person took the cycle and took the money, the dollar was, say, 400 naira to $1. So at that point, the value, let's say you're taking 1 million naira, you're taking a lot more money, say $2,000, right? And then by October, let's say the value of the naira is dropped. So you're actually losing.
You're actually losing money.
In real
That's
terms,
a very good point.
right? So that's Agile is good for savings, but I think an investment club takes it further. So you're actually investing in an income-producing asset, an investment option. So that's what that's how it's different.
So I love this book. I think what I love about this book is that it's not a how-to. It's actually like your experiences and really giving people roadmaps. Yes. And so tell us a little bit about some of the pitfalls that you and your friends experienced when you first started your investment club, because some of them are in here.
To be honest, I don't think we realized what we're getting into. I think it was just the idea of doing something bigger than ourselves, and we were so. And I think it was when we made the first loss that reality dawned, that we actually didn't understand investing and how it actually works. So we decided.
How did you guys not get discouraged when you lost your first investment?
I think we're really committed.
Okay.
I think we just had this spirit that we had to, work it out and see how it pans out at the end of the day. So we knew that we had committed our resources, financial resources, and wanted to make it work. And at that point, we're not just going to stop. We wanted to continue to see where it would take us. So we had to go learn. We had to go sit down. I would go look for experts, actually spend an hour or two with them, read up books. It was a lot of learning. So I started to blog to express myself. And one particular day, I blogged about investment clubs, and the response was amazing. A lot of people started asking me questions. And I thought, oh, this is actually not knowledge on the streets. I always thought that everybody knew or was trying to learn. And I started to blog more about it, and that led to workshops, that led to a framework, and that led to a book.
So one of the things in here is that if you look at the forward is written by Tomie Davis.
Yes.
And he says that investment is a way to transform and change the world.
Absolutely.
Did you and your friends feel like that, or you just felt like, look, we just need to save some money? Or did you actually feel like this could catapult and change the way, in the end, that you have done, which is invest in different businesses?
Yes, we also wanted to, I think the focus was to invest in small businesses, although right now we have realized how risky that investment option is. But when we started off, we saw the gap. We saw that a lot of small businesses needed the working capital, even if we could not get the big investment, equity investment options. So we saw that opportunity, and we thought, okay, we could help and also put our money to work by investing. And we did try out, I think we invested in about 4 businesses so far. We've gotten our fingers burnt in a couple of ways, but I think the learning experience is something that I could not, give up at all, or would, trade it for anything. It taught me so much about how small businesses work. And I think right now, tell anybody, beyond the business model or the scale or how much potential that business has, it's the integrity of whoever is leading that business. I would take that over any other thing. So that has really set us, and we are also keen on impact. I mean, one of our success stories, so to speak, is an oil palm processing company in Akwa Ibom. We've seen that company grow. We see the possibilities. We see that even what we have is not enough, right? And they are currently about to, raise more capital. But being part of that is so exciting. The fact that our money went into something like that.
One of the things that you do so well in this book is actually telling us that when you have an investment club, everyone has to have sort of roles and responsibility, and those have to be clearly outlined. What were some of the things that you found, especially through your blog, that people were doing, and what are frequently made mistakes when people are setting up investment clubs?
I think what usually happens is one person is passionate about getting the others together, and the others say, oh, let me just be a part of this. And then that person seems to take up all the responsibility, do all the work, and then they get burned out. And like, okay, why am I the one doing everything? Why isn't anybody else interested? It's not just my money, right? We all have our money invested in this, and that always happens. And that happened to us as well, especially because 2 members do not live in the country. Right after the MBA, they took jobs out of the country as well.
Okay.
But we managed to get it working, but it became an issue when 2, 3 of us in the country were doing most of the work, right? So it was clear that we had to outline roles and responsibilities and decide that, okay, even if you're not around to do some operational work, there's some things you can do. So that taught me that if you're starting off something from the very get-go, you have to define all of these roles and responsibilities so that down the line, some people don't get burned out and decide to exit the club.
So how much can one use to start a club?
I think you can start with any amount of money, but I always say that an investment club should be for bigger opportunities that you cannot invest in by yourself. Because there are so many investment options you can probably invest in by yourself. And so you should think about an investment club when you want to get into big opportunities like maybe real estate or small businesses, equity or debt contribution, or projects. We've also done a couple of projects as well. And maybe for slightly riskier projects or opportunities because you want to share the risk with others. But I feel that if it's safe, you can do the investment club, you should think about bigger opportunities that you probably cannot do yourself.
And then just to give people a sense of how to think of these, are we talking sort of 2M and above? Are you talking about 5M and above? Like, what is the sort of threshold where you're like, you should think about an investment club?
It's relative. Okay. Because you find that a lot of millennials have like different thresholds. Right? When we started, it was 50,000 on a monthly basis, and that was big because it was just right after MBA, and it was first job, first salary. There were so many other things I could use that money for. Right, and we've done that over time, and we've asked ourselves questions to increase it, but we find out that as we have also grown, a lot of responsibilities. Some of us have gotten married, you know, so but we're trying to put it to work and build it. But even down the line, we see a bigger opportunities to put a fund together that is bigger, right? But I also know I've also been a member of investment clubs that start with $1 million, 500,000. It all depends on what each person can afford, and I think it's very important that it has to be an amount of money that is convenient for everybody. Or else, 2, 3, 4 months down the line, somebody will say, oh, I can't afford it anymore, I need to exit. It can also be a one-off thing where you just put in the amount of money and everybody just puts it to work.
I noticed in here you also have guidelines for like setting up how people can exit the club, how people can come into the club. Did you guys have that experience where people needed to leave the club?
Fortunately, my club hasn't had that experience.
Have you helped people develop clubs where they've had to have people exit? Or whereby people have missed payments? That's something else I noticed.
So when I started to write about it, I started to get a lot of people asking questions, and they decided to go start theirs. And then I started to hear a lot of the feedback and issues they had, and I thought, oh, wow, we have not experienced this, but it was still something I had to document on how to manage these opportunities, these issues, rather, a better word for that. And then some of these clubs started with a lot of passion, and then 4 months down the line, 2 people decided that they want to leave. And I realized that it was clear that they were not clear on the objective from the beginning. While we didn't know what we were doing, but I think we were very clear on our objective from the beginning. We knew that we might get into risky options and lose money, but we're still willing to take that risk. But some people were not, or in those clubs were not, and I knew that it's something that has to be documented, that if you're going into this, all of this has to be clear. And if life does happen, some people might get into a position where they can't afford the money anymore. How do you manage the exit at that point? How do you take on a new member at that point? So multiple experiences, multiple clubs.
Well, give us an example of what is one of the examples of how to exit and bring on someone else. Will someone then buy that person out? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I'm involved in multiple investment clubs. In the book, I have different models, and I have managed each of those models of investment clubs. So there's this real estate investment club that I manage with about 36 members. And we've been putting money together for 9 months to purchase the land. And then 2, 3 people say, I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. I want my money back. But the good thing is, from the very beginning, we had a legal document that everybody signed and executed that when it's time for you to leave, you'd have to find somebody else to replace you.
Okay.
And if we have to, we would have to give back your money less charges because of the cost of looking for someone. So all of those things were outlined in a legal document. So that does happen. You just have to have guidelines to manage that process, so you don't have to start going back and forth and trying to agree.
I have to say, I love the way the book is laid out. It has the art of the start.
Yeah.
And even there, you have the options for registering the club.
Yes.
I mean, you can do a general partnership, you can do a limited partnership, you could do a limited liability company, and you can do a cooperative society. Yeah. Which one of these have you used mostly, or have you seen people use mostly when it comes to investing, especially for assets like real estate?
Limited liability company. But I think we didn't know better, to be honest, when we started. Because when we started, we just decided that was the option that we would go for. But I think now we see that the tax implications, quite been a burden because we're not a business. So
yes.
So because of that, I've done a lot of research and worked with some other clubs that have used the limited partnership model.
Okay.
And then I don't think I've worked with anyone using the cooperative model. But I decided to do the research to find out what's possible. But I find I've met a couple of cooperative societies that work with this model, and I sat down to ask them how it worked, and I thought it was interesting. It's quite administrative as well, because one of the things I know, as much as you want to get your money, investing and putting your money to work, is you don't want to be burdened with administrative tasks, right? So I think...
So let this money work. I don't need to do all the work.
All of that. So I think the best option would probably be the limited partnership. But it depends.
One of the stories you tell in the book is about an investment you did early on in Mr. Otis bus transportation business.
Yes.
Tell us how that came about and why you guys thought that would be such a great investment. And just give people enough of a taste so they can go pick up the book and get some more from it.
So one of the members of my investment club, I think he started working in one of the large corporates at that time. And he didn't own a car. It was right after the MBA. And he wanted to go back and forth. Then Uber was not in Nigeria.
Yes.
Right. So he met this Mr. Oti that was managing a couple of cars where he would pick you up, drop you off at work, then come pick you up at work and drop you off at home. And there were like 3 or 5 of them that were paying him on a monthly basis. And he thought, oh, this is an interesting model. And he got a lot of friends interested, but Mr. Oti did not have the means to increase his fleet of cars or transportation vehicles at that time. So he said, okay, I think we should help him out because, he got talking. He has a family, he has children. It was a very interesting proposition. And we started the conversation and we thought, okay, we should get involved in this because we saw the opportunity and we also saw the impact it will make at that point. So we started conversation, we actually purchased the vehicle and unfortunately...
So at that point, the company, your investment club owned the vehicle.
Yeah, I think that was a good decision for us because eventually when we had to take back the car...
You owned it.
Yeah, we owned it. So I think the problem we had was when we started noticing that the checks were bouncing. Because as recently graduated MBA students, we had looked at every tide and turn that this could take. We had tried to mitigate the risk as much as we can, but you just can't solve the problem of integrity. If there's an integrity problem, you can't help that. So when we noticed that this was something we couldn't handle anymore, we had to cut our losses immediately. But it was an interesting experience.
What would you have done differently today with all the knowledge and all the experience?
I think we'll probably have done some more background checks.
Okay.
I know that getting data is quite a problem in this country, and maybe a lot more ownership. Maybe a lot more ownership in terms of ensuring that maybe we employed the drivers to drive the car, for instance, because he took that responsibility. So we had absolutely no oversight over that. We couldn't see how much he was earning to know if he could pay us back or not. We just give him complete autonomy to do what he wanted to do and then pay us back our money. But I realized that you have to get more involved at some point, especially if it is an informal business. You have to get more involved to find out what exactly is going on. So maybe a lot more oversight would have helped.
So, we're rounding up, but one of the things I really liked is the way you have the investment club framework and really having people think about that. At what stage do people need to sort of start to think about incorporating the framework or using the framework? Is it from the first day they sort of say, I'm looking for people, they should start looking at the framework? Because the framework is really quite well laid out. And then it also has 10 questions that you should use to define your framework. And let me just quickly run through some of them.
Okay.
Sort of what are your core investment beliefs? Do you understand your philosophy and why you believe in it? Do you know the potential risk? That's a very important one.
Very important.
Does it suit your personality and individual circumstances? Was this also something you had to think about with your friends, that you guys understood each other? Or can people just go into an investment club where they don't know people?
I think we had the advantage of being classmates for 2 years.
Yeah.
So I always tell people that even if you're friends, if you haven't discussed or done some business projects together, maybe you need to have this conversation. So we had been classmates. We knew each other's strengths and weaknesses. We had done a couple of projects together. We actually organized the first Africa Business Conference in the Lagos Business School at that time together. So we knew how to work with each other.
And you've seen it, you know each other's strengths,
yes,
you know, okay, this person will be, so are you the treasurer of the group? I'm like, who's the treasurer of the group?
At some point I took up that role.
Okay.
I'm doing that.
But with some roles, can they rotate so that you don't feel like you're always the person bringing this money news to the group?
Yes, it does. You would have to because life changes. Somebody else might leave the country, somebody else might take up an additional responsibility. And, so I have taken up a lot more responsibility with the role I play with running my business. So I had to, give that to somebody else to manage right now. When we started out, I managed that role. But right now, I'm working with somebody else to manage that role.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for the book. Thank you for all the examples. And thank you for signing mine. I got mine personally signed.
Thank you.
The book is called Investment Clubs, How to Create Wealth Beyond Your Paycheck by Investing with Other People. And, just like the famous African proverb, if you want to go fast...
If you want to go farther,
go with other people. So, guys, it's still time to reach your financial goals. Go out there,
www.tomiebalogun.com.
That is very easy. Go to TomieBalogun.com, get the book, and really reach out to your friends and formalize your own investment club and your own investments. We wish you all the best as you go on this journey.